Events coming up here for Pennsylvania AFRD, so we do hope you join us at many of those events. Once again, Keystone, Health Promotion, Adapted Physical Education Conference. And then next year, we're getting our webinar schedule set up right now. So if any of you have any webinars that you do, or you have one that you could recommend to us, please send me an email, tbedard2@gmail.com. I'll pop that in the chat room here in just a few minutes. And before we turn the program over to Cindy Hess for the evening, I'd like to introduce you to Martha Harris of FIZIKA Group. She is co-sponsoring our webinar series this year with Pennsylvania AFRD, and I'll let her say a few words before we turn it over to Cindy. All right, folks, not sure if we have Martha with us, so we'll check on her. And without further ado, Cindy, if you want to unmute your mic, we'll turn the program over to you. Folks, down in the lower corner, by the way, also is our a handout that Cindy will reference later on. So if you click on the handout, the download files button will appear, and it will download into your browser, and you can have that to take with you. So that's an option for you as well tonight. If you do have any questions, feel free to use our question and answer pod that's down there, and we'll get those questions answered as we see them, and definitely by the end we'll have.
Hi everybody, welcome to the webinar. Tonight we're going to be talking about how you prepare the brain for learning. I know that previous webinars you've gotten a lot of information about brain research, so I don't want to repeat anything. There's a lot out there. I'm going to show you at the end how you can go on our website and access all the research that we've come across, most recently all the way back to when Jean and I became business partners. Starting with the first frame, I'd like you to take a look at the center of the picture, right here where you see this little waste can. And you'll notice that there's holes in the waste can. And if you think about when a child is conceived, their brain has nothing in it. And from the time that they're conceived until the time they enter either preschool or kindergarten, they are based upon movement as far as what they're learning, if they're on schedule, if they're developing correctly. Once they hit school, we stop evaluating them on movement, which is against all norms because we are a moving people. If you look at the next slide, you'll see that the waste can is all filled in. And what's filled in on the waste can, starting at the bottom, are a lot of the things that are checked when a baby's born to see if they have reflexes. The top 3 dots are reading, writing, and math. If you can picture a child who maybe didn't learn to crawl or is not able to cross their midline, you've seen them in your classes, they can't juggle, they can't skip, and one of their buttons is not in one of the holes. You look at that as their brain, and you're trying to teach them reading, writing, and math, and you pour water in, which is information, it's going to leak out the hole. And that's where physical education comes in, because our job is to fill in those gaps developmentally so that the classroom teachers and the whole school setting can help the child to learn better. If a child has gaps and holes, they're not going to learn nearly as well as a child who has everything filled in, as you see in the waste can picture. Now, what makes us move is what makes us think. And I think a lot of you know it's very important we do in the gym. It's very important that we get teachers in the classroom to understand what they're doing in the classroom is valuable, that they get them moving as well. Many of our schools see the kids once every 6 days. Therefore, you don't have the opportunity to get to the kids as much as you'd like to. So your job has to be to educate the classroom teachers on the value and the need for the kids to move in the classroom. The chair is probably the most restrictive piece of equipment in the school to learning. So if you could picture a classroom that would look like this classroom has integrated in it movement just by putting the kids on the stability balls. By having them sit on these, they are constantly throughout the classroom day focusing their core, which causes their brain to get into attention and able to take in more information, retrieve the information, and then put it out in what would be a test form. I think someone, I'm sure, in the last two sessions has mentioned that 85% of children are natural kinesthetic learners. That means, like all of us in physical education, they learn by doing. So from the time they come into school until they graduate, we need to be reinforcing what they're learning through movement so that it's imprinted in the brain, it's solidified, they're able to recall it, bring it forward for tests, and for the kids, it's simply fun. You're going to see several photos of kids doing motor skills, and all the motor skills are the fundamental building blocks to learning. Just like they have learning blocks for reading, learning blocks for math, if we don't have the basic fundamental motor skills imprinted in a child's brain and their body by the end of second grade, they're going to struggle in school. So it's imperative that they get all the basic movement, locomotor movements, be able to skip, be able to hop, balance, jump, crawl, be able to get their body off the ground and begin to develop off the ground cognition. So what we do in physical education is impairment to the learning process of the child in the classroom. If they're not getting your skills and the development in the gym, they're not going to get them in the classroom. And then, as I said in a previous slide, it's very, very important that you get to the classroom teachers and help them to see the value and the need for them to be moving the kids in the classroom setting. Skipping is an indicator of reading readiness. If you have a child who cannot skip, they're not doing well in reading. And if you really want to do an experiment and impress your classroom teachers, what you want to do is have the kids skip, line them up either by the kids who can at the beginning of the line to the ones that can't at the end, or vice versa. And when the classroom teacher comes to pick them up, tell them where their readers are, and they'll be totally impressed by the fact that you know who the readers are. In the older kids, third grade and higher, if you want to do the same experiment, you can use juggling with two scarves. The kids who can't juggle are struggling in reading, and it's just a fact. You can prove it with every class that you have. I'm probably thinking you've seen this slide. This is from the Hillman study. I'm pretty sure you might have seen it with Paul Zentarski, and I'm sure that he explained it to you that these are 20 children, and it's a PET scan, so they're layered on top of each other. This is a very good slide to make sure that you get in front of classroom teachers, parents, and administrators, and at least be able to explain to them that the brain on the left is an at-rest group of 20 children. The brain on the right is, after 20 minutes of exercise, the brains of 20 children stacked upon each other. And very simply, you just need to say to them, which brain would you rather have learning in your classroom? And I don't think there's a classroom teacher out there or an administrator out there that cannot see that and understand that with 20 minutes of exercise, I'd rather have the child on the right in my classroom. What I'm going to do is quickly go through. I'm thinking most of you are familiar with what the Action-Based Learning Lab is, which is our pre-KK program. So I'm going to show that to you first in case there's someone on tonight that doesn't know what the Action-Based Learning Lab is. And then I'm going to move forward into all the different labs that we've created so that now action-based learning has gone from pre-K all the way to 12th grade. So there's options for you within your schools all the way up through. Now, concepts of action-based learning are based on brain research. It's targeted. The first lab we had been saying up through second grade, but it's basically a pre-KK program. This is what a new manual looks like. So if you have an older manual, don't worry, you're not missing anything different except for the cover. At the first station, what the kids are going to be working on in the first station is the crawling station. It's also known as building the framework. and they're going to be doing bilateral crawling. This is just one of 10 different stations, progressions within the station. And what you don't need to have the explanation, but what you're looking for is to make sure that their left arm is forward and their right hand is coming up. And I don't know why that arrow is there. Oh, now I got it. So you want to see that they have right leg, left hand. You're going to see a lot of crawls that are different, and it doesn't mean there's anything wrong. It's developmental. You just have to give the children time to catch up. So that would be the first station, first progression. The second station is the rolling station. This is where they begin to get their sensory integration. One of the things we talk about in trainings is the fact that why do kids roll off the mat? And the first thing, obviously, is their abdominal strength. And if they don't have strong abdominal strength, they're going to roll crooked. But the other reason that children have a hard time when they're rolling is that they're not tracking with their eyes. And when they track the mat with their eyes or coming around, that shows that they have ocular strength. And your connection with that is to reading. If they don't have the ocular strength to track to the mat, they also do not have the ocular strength to track across the page. That's why when you go into the classroom, you see teachers have rulers on the kids' books. It's simply because the kids can't all the way across the page and then find their way back to the left side. And most of it's based upon their eye strength, and that's definitely something that within physical education we can fix and take credit fixing. The third station is the vestibular development. This is the spinning station. This is where you kind of mess up their balance and then you fix up their balance. And they love this. Kids love to spin. As adults, we don't like spin, and the reason we don't is that when you go through puberty, the fluid in your ear thickens up and it lays on the hair inside your ear and kind of bends it over. So those of you that are getting up in age and don't demonstrate the forward roll anymore, that's why. And these kids love doing it. As they spin, they're wiring up the brain and their vestibular system. So it's important that you do a lot of spinning things. It's important that you go to the left and the right when you're doing these. The next station is the visual development. In this is where I introduce the shapes because they are the building block for math in kindergarten. But basically what you're working on here is getting the kids to be able to visualize what it is that they're doing and carry it through. The tracking station, again, this is where you can start to put in any of the phys ed skills that you want to be working on, any ball skills, but what the kids are working on is their tracking of that ball, which is helping strengthen their eye muscles and get that ocular tracking so that they can be stronger readers. So you're not giving up any of your physical education. You're still doing all your basic skills. You're just knowing what you're doing and being able to express it to classroom teachers and administrators. Our last station is the ladder literacy, and we have a rubberized mat which goes down on the floor first. It helps if you have a wooden floor to keep your ladder from skittering all over the place. It also helps the kindergarten kids where you academics in and allow them to start reinforcing those academics prior to them getting the balance skills that they need to actually go up on the ladders. And then if you are blessed enough to purchase or have a ladder, it's excellent to get them up and get the balance part and the balance aspect of the learning, because if they can walk on a ladder and say the academic content that's in the ladder, then it's learned. It's not just in the process of being learned, it's learned and it's ready to be tested. This is another picture. The kids would put sight words in, just about any academic work at all that they're doing, colors, numbers, shapes, you can put in here. You can put addition facts across, put multiplication facts in, and you'll see that in some of the slides for the older kids' labs. The environment is very enriching. The labs all across our nation, they look different but look the same, and it's kind of exciting to see kids learning at that level. So now I'm going to ask Todd to start the video, the Dr. Rady video, the ABC Good Morning America.
Imagine students bouncing on exercise balls during class. I don't mean gym class, or having middle school kids stand up, fidget as much as they like while learning math. Well, seems
Imagine students bouncing on exercise balls during class. I don't mean gym class, or having middle school kids stand up, fidget as much as they like while learning math. Well, scenes like that are playing out all around the country. And if new research is correct, moving around in the classroom could help your children learn better than ever before. Our parenting contributor, Ann Plachette Murphy, explains.
Students like the ones in the movie Doubt are typically admonished for not sitting still in class. But a new trend in education actually encourages restlessness. These fourth graders in Fort Collins, California, sit or bounce on stability balls, keeping their bodies active while they learn.
They're better than chairs because you get to wiggle around.
And a growing body of research shows that wiggling around helps kids focus.
Movement really is very connected to our learning brain. That actually does stimulate the brain to wake up a little bit.
These sixth graders in Missouri no longer sit through a lesson plan, they stand. Their desks even come with swinging footrests. And kids at the Action-Based Learning Lab in Pennsylvania jump on trampolines while solving math problems. New research from the University of Illinois shows that even a single bout of moderate exercise stimulates the brain and improves cognitive function in elementary school kids. This brain image shows the average response of kids during a test they took after walking for 20 minutes. Now notice how much less brain activity there is in the same kids when they took the test after just sitting quietly.
It improves our attention system almost immediately, decreases our impulsivity or the fidgetiness, it improves motivation and decreases anxiety and the feeling of I can't do it.
And hey, kids can have a bit of fun too.
It looks that way. Annie joins us now with more on this fascinating new research. So, you know, some folks feel like I'm ready to go. They feel that fidgeting and things like that mean you're not paying attention. But
it's so important to realize that blood flow to the brain is like Miracle Grow. Exercise is like Miracle Grow, and it fosters the production of new brain cells. So even at home, you know, if you don't have a school that has this program, and many people don't have that, but when your kids are doing homework, have them jump rope, have them bounce on a ball, do things that break up the unfortunately often tedious process of getting them to try to focus, because it will really help.
All ages are we talking about here?
All ages. And I think, you know, again, during the teen years, and in fact, all the way to, you know, our older years, exercise is really important. But the thing is that during the teen years, the brain is growing very dramatically, and the part of the brain that needs the stimulation, which is that executive function part, is very much involved in this research, because they've seen that that's the part of the brain that really benefits.
Yeah, and with physical education classes being eliminated.
Yeah, only 6% of schools in the nation have PE 5 times a week.
And on the ball, it's good for your core as well. Great for your core.
And good for your mood.
Thanks a lot, Annie. For more, you can find out at our website at abcnews.com.
Cindy, do you want me to play the other video now?
The Mohawk Elementary one?
Yeah.
Sure, that'd be good.
Okay.
Do we have to announce that?
You can, and then I'm gonna mute your mic so we don't get the duplication.
Because we might want to just give them credit.
This one's a minute now. Yeah, so this is the action-based learning lab from Mohawk Elementary School. Okay, Cindy, you're back with your
Okay.
PowerPoint here.
It doesn't show me having, okay, now I have the mic. All right, so, I don't know about you, but that little boy, when he throws his hands up in the air at the end, it just makes my day. And the cool thing about this is that everybody out there is doing this stuff. We're physical educators, we're doing it. We just need to learn how to explain to classroom teachers and administrators why it is that we do this, and just do a whole lot better job of integrating the academics into our gym and then helping them to bring movement into their classroom. Now, what Jean and I have done with action-based learning is we've taken the concept and we've tried to create what would action-based learning look like if all you could do, you had a building code going on and they were giving you lots of money, you could build a room. You weren't going to put the lab in where someone needed to be there monitoring them. You were going to put a room in where if a classroom teacher took kids into this room, not turned them loose, but had structure, that the kids would basically get the same thing as if they were in the gym with a teacher, so that you could be doing the action-based learning lab adventure in the gym, and at the same time there would be a room where classroom teachers could take the kids. We visualized two ways that the room could look. This is one of them, where there would be a lot of opportunity for climbing. There's a gentleman in Charleston, South Carolina, Ed Pinney, who has a company called Kids Fit, and he's making equipment specific to us. So if you look at the green turtle shell right here, this arrow thing. Anyways, the green turtle shell on the bottom, it's our spinning for older kids. So instead of just standing and spinning, they get in the turtle shell and they spin in that. Basically, the sky's the limit, how you would want your room to look. We stressed, and I know as a phys ed teacher, you would stress to the classroom teachers, this is not meant to be an obstacle course, because if you turn the kids loose in here and you have them do it as an obstacle course, all development goes out the window. Another way the room could look is like this. You see there's a lot of equipment put into a small area. It would depend on what size area that you would have, but this is meant to be a room that you put through with a building plan, or if you got a big grant and the equipment would stay put and classroom teachers could come in, you just change what kids are doing or what academics you're reinforcing. At the same time, we created the action-based learning adventure for the gym. This would be more for your first and second graders. It takes the applications of the stations from the action-based learning lab and just takes it one step higher. So this is the cross-lateral station. This is comparable to the first station that you saw with the bilateral crawling. And here's just some examples. I think there's 50 lessons in the cross-lateral section. So pictured here are just 4 of them, 4 examples of what some of those lessons might look like. Following right along then, station 2 would be the sensory integration. And this was the crawling one. Down in the bottom right-hand corner is Brecknock Elementary's featured. I don't know if any of you know Mark Antosio. He's now retired, but he created, with the rolling, he created a waterfall where the kids would roll down the mats, and they were long and they were high. And one of the things that we talked about, and I think it's also important when you have kids rolling or doing anything that's one-sided, right-handed, left-handed, I think it's very important in physical education that we do determine dominance. But I think, and I was guilty of this, we did not develop both sides of the body. And with the knowledge we now have about the brain and the brain research and the need to develop both sides of the brain, it's very important, for example, in that waterfall roll, that you stress to the kids, you lay down on your right side, and then the next time you go down, you lay down on your left side. Because we're all naturally inclined to lay on one side or the other, and if you don't expect them to change sides, they won't. So this is the sensory integration and some samples of the sensory integration station. This would be the vestibular station, getting them off the ground on the left-hand side, or the specific pieces of equipment that Kids Fit has made. On the right-hand side are, if you've seen videos of my gym, these are the things that my husband made, and we do have plans for them. If you have somebody who's very carpentry-ish or is able to build, we have plans for those pieces of equipment. So that's the vestibular station. The tracking station, it's basically like we had talked about earlier, anything that you're doing in your gym that the kids have to watch the ball, watch the mat, watch the eraser on the end of the pencil, anything at all that's making their eyes stronger and tracking helps them with their reading. Ocular pursuit, this is also the station where you want them to be able to see what they're doing, to follow it with their eyes. Up in the top left-hand corner, there's a program called FIZIKA. If you've never looked into it, I highly recommend it. It's all about balance and vision, and there's a lot of leadership skills can be learned from it, a lot of rhythm skills, and anything that you're doing where you're having the kids track something, looking up for it, clapping, saying words, all of those things fall under that ocular pursuit station. Then bladders again in the higher level thinking, get them off the ground more, get different things in there. The top left-hand corner, it's an important skill in first and second grade that they'll be able to look at a domino and know that those 5 dots mean 5 and the 1. And then what I had them do was they had to add that up in their heads right away. They had to look at that first set of dominoes and know that was 6. And then the next one was 9. So I didn't want to hear them saying 6, 7, 8, 9. I wanted to hear them saying 9. And that's one of the skills. When you talk to your classroom teachers, they'll tell you what's important that you stress with the kids. And for the students and any of you that are running the lab and you saw the faces of the kids, this is fun for them. This is a fun way to learn and reinforce their learning. And it's going to be learned at a much higher level because they're moving. And at this level also, you can see the balance element is added in. So that's our next level. That's the first and second grade action-based learning adventure. Then we moved on to mission cognition. And mission cognition is for 3rd through 6th grade. Now we've moved up to 8 stations. And we focused a lot more in the mission cognition on fitness, because with the California test and now the Texas test that links all the academic achievement and shows how those that meet all the tests on the fitness gram are also your higher academic achieving, it's very important that we're constantly lacing fitness into what you're doing in the gym. So these stations, you're going to see a lot more of the components of fitness. We named each of these after different parts of the body, and we called this first station the body, and this is the coordination of the brain and the body together. And this mission cognition is like your action-based learning adventure was. You're just seeing a very, very small sample of the many lesson plans or the many sample stations that are within every one of these. The other thing that we tried to do was take a look at everything that's out there and put it in a category so that if it's something that you're doing in your gym, if you're doing speed stacks, it shows how your brain, what happens with your brain and the organization in your brain when you do speed stacks. So what we try to do is show things that you have, things that you're working with, can and how do you put them into the lab, and then explain to everybody why you're doing it. The next station is the legs, building the spatial awareness and still developing motor skills. If you look at the top left-hand corner, that's skipping, basic skipping like they learn, supposed to have by 2nd grade. But what you've done is you've taken it to another level. It's now power skipping. So you're developing fitness, and at the same time, you're still working on reinforcing that skipping, because you're going to have kids in 3rd grade, in 4th grade, in 5th grade who still are not skipping. So you cannot skip too much. And then the others are just samples of some of the lessons that you'll find in that station. The next station is the muscles, and this one really hits home with the components of fitness and building muscular strength. And I actually have the FitnessGram logo there because you can't compare. I think Presidential is getting much better. At the time we did a lot of this, FitnessGram was the only good one out there. I would still recommend FitnessGram because that's where the data is. That's where you get the link to California and Texas to the academic achievement. So these are just different samples of different pieces of equipment, and I don't need to tell you how to develop muscular strength. You do it every day. With the eyes, some of the things that we tried to incorporate in here are just different themes and different activities that you may be doing. In the top left-hand corner is an activity called Mayachi, and this age group, boys really like it because you put a beanbag on top of your hand, and then they kind of go hya hya and make sounds as they're doing it. So this age boy really liked this. The bottom right-hand corner is actually, I think if you go camping, it's called washerboard in campgrounds. Sport Time has one, I think it's called Propel, but it's one of the things that if you're handy, you can make this and the kids can use it in the gym. Eyes and hand for visual fitness. I have FIZIKA in there again because it's excellent. They use little racquetballs at one level and bean bags at another level. I've shown Z-balls in there, tack raw. In the top right-hand corner, it's tether ball with a tennis ball. And what you do is you actually have the kids use their right hand to hit it, and they stand straight at the pole, and when it comes around, they hit it with their left hand back around. So it's a constant hitting back and forth with their right and left and tracking it. You want to incorporate more foot-eye coordination and encourage the kids. The bottom left is a little guy doing Mayachi. So this is the eye-hand coordination station. And I hope as you're looking at these, you're saying, oh, wow, I do a lot of this stuff. The bone station is getting the balance and the strength. The top left-hand corner, one of my student teachers did this at Akron Elementary. What they did is they put all the domes on the mats, and they had to come up with activities when they were doing PSSAs, and they would come up with different patterns. And they took the stepping stones crossing over to a whole different level in that they said you could only step on the yellow ones, or you could only step on the red ones with your right foot and the blue ones with your left foot. And so each time that they went through this, they gave them a different pattern that they had to do. The next one, you can see how we've used the ladders for multiplication. So when the kids step on the ladder, for example, they would say 2 times 1 equals, and then it's your choice whether you want to put the answer to the far right or if you want to let them just say it. But what you're doing here is you're going left to right, which is how you read, and you're incorporating their math facts. The next one is the ladder being used to teach planets. And in 3rd grade or 4th grade, I believe it is, they have to learn the order of the planets as they are in distance from the sun. And what's pictured there is what the planet looks like, the name of the planet, and as they walk across the ladder, they get the distance from the sun. The little girl on the far right, she has a ball and she's bouncing it. That ladder is made like a balance beam, so they have to stand toe heel in there. So she's got balance. She has to bounce a ball in between the rungs and catch it. And then when they get really good with the balance and the ball bouncing, you put math facts, spelling words, whatever you want to put between that they have to say and bounce the ball on. The boys in the bottom right are doing balance and upper body strength, so they're doing 2 physical things at the same time, and they are looking down at the end of the balance beams, which you cannot see in this picture, but there's a poster and it has pictures of their muscles, and they have to say biceps, triceps as they do the bicep curl and then let it down, so that they're learning that the bicep muscle pulls it up and then the triceps is when it goes back down. So you're integrating the muscles in there at that point. The next station is the heart, and And under this one falls anything you have that you're doing that's cardiovascular. And this one's kind of open-ended. Some people have bikes, some people have trikes, some people have rollerblades. Some people are using Xbox, so the pictures of the gaming system that's there is kind of antiquated at this time, but if you have it, you use it. Jump rope, jump bands, anything that gets their heart up and gets cardiovascular fitness, because that's one of the tests on the fitness gram. The last one is the brain, and here's where you want to integrate very heavily the academic. And what we don't want to see is a lot of sitting around. I've seen some people, they'll do an activity in the gym and then they have the kids sit down for the majority of the class and figure out math facts and things like that. That's not what I believe action-based learning is. Action-based learning is reinforcement of information that's already learned while you're moving, not being active and then sitting down in the gym. If they're going to sit down, you want to have them active the whole time they're in the gym and then have the sitting down when they leave. So what I feel action-based learning is reinforcing of academics in the gym that they've already learned in the classroom, but they're reinforcing it while they're moving. And what you see the kids doing in the bottom left, it appears as though they're sitting, but what they're doing is recording. They had just played knee ping pong where they had their knees on the blue lines and they had a ping pong paddle and they had to hit the ball back and forth over the black line and stay within the blue lines for control. So they're just recording how many they got. They aren't going to be sitting long. So they're not going to be sitting there and doing any kind of scales or any kind of bar graphs. They're just going to record at that time. Then where we had them make the applications was they took that paper back to the classroom, and then that's where the classroom teacher filled in the academics there. We didn't want them sitting in the gym. Now, this is what body-brain adventure could look like in a room. So what we did is we've also developed what it can look like. You saw the action-based learning adventure, what it looked like in a classroom. If you had a big area that you wanted to have set up all the time, it could look like this. And one of the things that has changed since we even developed this picture is there no longer will be the big kiosks, because now everything's going to be on a Kindle or an iPad, so it's going to be right on the pieces of equipment. And KidsFit, if you want to go, it's just KidsFit is the website, and you can see all the things that he's creating simply for action-based learning. Now, that gets us all the way up through the middle school. And then what we've created for the high school is the Neuronasium. And what the Neuronasium is, if you took the concept of a wellness center and you put all of the different pieces of equipment in it to reinforce academics, as well as getting heart rates up, exercise bikes, put them all into an area, that would be a Neuronasium. It would be like a fitness center where the academics were being reinforced. So the boy on the left-hand side, he's actually using the rubber mat that you use in the kindergarten program, and this is a high school boy. But what he's going to
So folks, if you have any questions, then all you need to do is type them down there in the Q&A pod, and so we'll gladly put them up. You won't see them right away. I'll moderate them, and then I'll pop them up as Cindy's ready to answer them. So feel free to type any question you have in that pod down there, and we'll be happy to get them answered for you as soon as possible. And Cindy, did you want to bring the website up then too at the end? Okay. If everybody clicks browse to Action-Based Learning Lab, that'll get you to the website that Cindy's going to talk about.
Based learning with a lot of stuff done. Charleston, South Carolina has done a lot with, and we have a lot of huge school districts across our nation that are collecting data. But one of the things that we find, no matter where that goes in, is that if you're doing this, you found the same thing. The kids love it. They learn.
Once you're done, then if you close your web browser, you will be able to see them.
Students are happy students, and they do learn better. And we have to constantly fight. But there's where you want to go if you want to look for any research at all. Everything that we come across is built into that flow right there. Todd, I can't see questions anymore.
I can't see questions either.
Once you're done, then if you close your web browser, you will be able to see them. Yes, I can hear you. Okay, I am gonna change.
Todd, can you hear me at all?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
All right.
I can't see any questions.
Hang on just
either.
1 second, Martha, and I'll pull up the slides that you want. And then we will wrap up. Folks, if there's any questions, feel free to type them down there in that bottom thing. I'm just going to let Martha add her piece to the final presentation here, and then we will wrap up for the night.
Great. But
Folks, if there's any questions, feel free to type them down there in that bottom thing. I'm just going to let Martha add her piece to the final presentation here, and then we will wrap up for the night.
I apologize you couldn't hear me before. I don't know what the problem was with the microphone. We had tested the connections beforehand. Hopefully you can hear me now. It's been a great pleasure to work with Todd and Linda and the other leaders of PS AFERD on this first ever
webinar series. We're grateful to Cindy Hess for closing up with such a strong presentation. Cindy has years of experience from her work at Highland Elementary, the Ephrata School District, and her work across the country with Jean Blaydes, now Jean Blaydes, with the Action-Based Learning Lab. So she ended up on a very strong note for us. Todd and I will be meeting over the summer to plan a webinar series for next year. So please send us your email or by chat, your thoughts for topics you'd like to explore. Active learning has such potential for impacting not only how you do your job in physical education, but the role that you play in helping other teachers learn how to strategically infuse movement into the learning process. We're also pleased to partner with Harrisburg University. Todd, if we could go to the next slide. Those of you who have been faithful and participating in all 4 of our webinar series have heard us promote the course that we'll be launching June 24th. It is an online, self-paced certificate course that's designed for educators who want to learn how to strategically deploy the latest brain-based research into the role of movement and learning and memory and attention span, and the emerging concept of physical literacy. Physical literacy has been around since 1991, when first authored by Dr. Margaret Whitehead of the United Kingdom, but it's now emerging as the new objective of the new National Physical Education Standards that the group now known as AFERD is developing. As of June, there won't be a NASPE, National Association for Sport and Physical Education, but the AFERD, or whatever AFERD decides to call itself going forward, has embraced physical literacy as the new overarching objective of physical education. And that has the potential to transform physical education in this country like it's transformed physical education in the United Kingdom, Australia, and Canada, where they've been implementing physical literacy, helping students who are both athletic and those who are not athletic, physically able and not physically able, to become physically literate in adults. And that's one of the core pillars of FIZIKA's unique approach to active learning. You'll learn more about it in the next slide through an introductory webinar that we're hosting on May 22nd. We invite you to participate. There's a lot more information about active learning on our website, which is FIZIKAgroup.com. Please bookmark that site. You can send an email to activelearning@harrisburgu.edu or info@fizikagroup.com, and we'll make sure you get registered for the introductory webinar. It will be run on Adobe Connect, so those of you who have been part of the PSAFERD webinar series are now facile at your ability to move through an Adobe Connect interface, and we welcome your participation in that webinar. The first cohort of classes will start June 24th. That's when open enrollment will occur. The course itself, we estimate, will take 5 to 10 weeks to complete the assignments. At the end of that time, you will have created an active learning intervention plan and know how to form your team to help implement that is designed to help your principal achieve the objectives of your school's improvement plan. So it's a very powerful course. We're delighted to be partnered with Harrisburg University, and we welcome your participation in the. So with that, we'll bring it to a close, Todd, and again, send us your suggestions for next year's topics. I think this is an excellent time to be in the profession of physical education, and those of you who have taken these webinars are certainly the best of breed, and that you're taking the time or your own personal time to become knowledgeable about new trends in physical education and new approaches that can really stimulate brain development.
Martha, we actually do have a question here, so if Cindy's still with us, I just popped the question up and everybody can see it.
I see 2 of them.
Excellent.
Cindy's still with us. I just popped the question up and
I have one. How can you get a complete description of the activities in the Action-Based Learning Lab? I have one. The description, there's descriptions of every station. We have a manual that can be purchased on the website. And if you want to contact me at cindymom@ptd.net, I can give you some more specifics on what it is that you're looking for. But there's a basic description on the website of every station and what's accomplished. There's not all of the stations. You have to get a manual in order to get all the stations.
Also, Cindy, folks, I can send out Cindy's email too in a follow-up email after we wrap up the webinar. I'll send a follow-up email to everybody with your email information in there, Cindy.
So the one from Elaine, would she get to me specifically to me, the question she has?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Says, have you ever presented at a national principals conference, etc.?
Okay. So she'll contact me then?
No, she was asking you if you have.
Oh, okay. I've presented at a principals conference, but I don't know that it was a national one. I've presented to principals. Actually, I think the thing I presented at was a school board. It was up in Hershey one year. It was school board. I may never have been in front of principals at a national conference, no. But I'd love to, if you can do that. I think the more we get to administrators, because they're the ones that make the decisions. I'll present to anybody who will listen.
Well, we appreciate having you here tonight. We really do. Folks, if there's any other questions, feel free to type them into that question pod down there. We'll get Cindy to answer them. We want to make sure we get everybody answered before we let everybody go for the night. And also, folks, don't forget, you will be able to log into this recording. It will be posted on psafer.org probably within several days. And if any of you have watched any of the other webinars, they are all up to date and posted. All you need is your login and password to view the recordings. And as always, if you do have any questions, my email's in the chat box. I'll be happy to support you technically if you have trouble logging into any of this stuff. We'll be happy to get you in or get you what you need. Any other questions before we let Cindy go? All right. Well, folks, before we let you go, if you go up to that upper toolbar, the black toolbar where our microphones are and everything else, and you look at the guy with his hand raised, and you use that drop-down menu and scroll down there, there's an applause button, and if you would, before you go, how about a nice round of applause for Cindy Hess for joining us this evening. So, thanks so much, Cindy. We really appreciate you being with us tonight. All right, well, with that, I'm going to cut the recording off, and folks, if you need to get in touch with Cindy, we'll be sending out her contact information, and once again, we really do appreciate you.